speaker. This is awesome. And our theme for today, as you are familiar, is layers. This is all about peeling back the layers and to reveal the depths and the different things that kind of pile up to make either who you are or to make our work. And so we're really excited to celebrate that today and to really hear a little bit more about our main event, our speaker, and the layers that she has put together to become the incredible person that she is. As you're taking notes, as you're taking pictures, make sure you're tagging us, using the hashtags, all of the things. But without further ado, I would love nothing more than to introduce our amazing speaker for today, Samantha. She is a writer, she is a journalist, she's a friend, she is a multi-hyphenate, which is why she was perfect for this, because she has layers upon layers upon layers of not only experience, but talent and so much joy. She's also a triple Taurus, so if you're a Taurus in this room, you've met your final boss, okay? And she is incredible. So without further ado, I'm so excited to bring up Samantha Callender, everyone. Hi, everyone. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. I am getting over a bit of a cold, so keep me, but I'm so excited to speak to you all today. How are we feeling? Feeling good. Feeling great. Perfect. I will be quite frank. We'll kick this off. How many of you either have a therapist or a journal or both? Great, because after this, you're definitely going to want to need them. Definitely going to want to reference them. So let's get started. Perfect. So this is the beauty of layers, embracing our depth in life and storytelling and self-discovery. With me, Samantha Callender. So we all have layers, right? As individuals, we have multifacets to our lives. We are deep people, and some of us know that we're deep people. Some of us know that we have a lot going on, that there's a lot to uncover within each and every one of us. And some of us may not even know that we have layers. We might think we're very simple, very easy to figure out, but I'll tell you, this is not necessarily the truth. For me, I love layers. As a journalist, that's one of my favorite things about talking to people, is really getting them to peel back their layers to discover what is at their core, right? And your core is the why, your reason, and also the fire. What kind of drives you inside? And when we peel back those layers, we can find that. And sometimes layers, it might seem like a simple word, but we're like, what is that really? To me, layers just means nuance. It just means the small details that kind of make us who we are. When we peel back those layers, though, we can find things about ourselves that we either want to elevate, nurture, or even heal from. A little bit, thank you. So, there can be layers found in everyday life. How many of us have seen Wicked? Okay, how many of us have maybe seen it more than once? Maybe even more than twice. I'm not gonna lie, I've seen like Wicked 4 times. And for me, what keeps me coming back to that film, besides like the great acting and the great singing, is the fact that it is so layered. Every time I go back to it, there's something new that I can take from it. There's something new that I can put together in it. There's a lot to unpack. And sometimes when we're speaking about art, some of the best pieces of art are ones that have layers. There's ones that you have to go back to time and time again to unpack it. Of course, there are things that when we watch it the first time or experience it the first time, obviously we might get the intended message. A message might be clear. But when you continue to go back, you can continue to uncover things that you might not have seen before. So some of the most impactful works are things that require multi-dimensions. And even if you're not a Wicked fan, I'm sure we all have a favorite album that we've listened to multiple times, a movie that you keep going back to multiple times,
a book that you read multiple times. Even myself, I love photography, I love videos, my personal ones, and unfortunately last week, I had an iPhone error, and I had to reset my phone, and it didn't back up to iCloud. Yeah. Yeah, I know. And even then I realized that a lot of my life was in those layers of video and content, and it kind of felt like those layers were stripped from me. Luckily, there were places where I upload a lot of content, so I could go back and retrieve them, but just not being able to have them in a device in chronological order, it really felt like there were layers of myself that were taken away, and I was talking to some friends about it. They said, well, you can go back, you can get them, you can download them. But I said, it just doesn't quite feel the same. It just feels like a layer of myself has been completely removed from me. And so sometimes layers don't have to be this big, kind of deep, profound thing. It can kind of be found in the simple things of our everyday life. But we live in a society that prefers simplicity, right? A lot of times we want things to be convenient. We have 30-second pitches where we have to sum up some of our life's work in 30 seconds. Some of you might have a career that has expanded decades, but you can only have a one-page resume. On LinkedIn, we might have a title that can only be about 200 characters, when we know that we're so much more than that, right? So society often favors simplicity, and there's a place for that. We want things that are easy to digest, but there is magic in the nuance. And nuance is layered. Again, for me, one of my sayings is that life is not linear. It's layered. As Audrey said before, I'm someone in media, I'm a journalist. I've always been fascinated by storytelling and talking to others and interviewing others. But that's not all that I am. In the context of this space, that's kind of what applies the most. But when I'm not being a journalist, I'm also in retail. I have a whole luxury sales experience, which partly came with having to fund myself when the editorial opportunities were coming through. And in having to do that, I found that I actually had a great skill in retail. Does that necessarily apply to this space among creatives and others in media? No. But it does apply a layer to my life. Another part of a layer for me is jewelry. Anyone who knows me personally knows that I love gold. I love jewelry very, very much. And it was interesting that I was approached with this topic, and also noting that life isn't linear, is because the necklace that I'm wearing right now, it belonged to my grandfather. I've had it for over a decade. It was in my possession. However, I've only recently been able to wear it because for nearly a decade, it was in a knot. It was in layers. And I didn't know how to get it out, and sometimes I would approach it and I would get frustrated that I couldn't get it, and I would just kind of shove it away. But recently I found it in storage, and like I said before, I have experience in luxury retail, kind of specifically fine jewelry. So over the years I have learned how to untangle these types of things, how to take time with them, and to get them to be straight. So I spent some time untangling this necklace. It took about 45 minutes to do. But for the first time in I'd say about 15 years, I was able to wear this necklace that belonged to my grandfather. And for me, it kind of reminded me how sometimes we know that there are things that we bury deep inside. And we're like, you know what? We understand that this is a layer of ourselves that we might not even want to deal with right now. We might not have the tools, we might not have the mental capacity, or we simply don't have the time. But it has to be done. And for me, this necklace was kind of symbolic of that. I took the time to untangle it, to get it linear, to get it back on the right path. And now I'm so happy that I'm able to wear this again as a reminder of my grandfather who I loved. And so sometimes when we take the time to excavate our layers and really sit with some of those layers that make us uncomfortable, we can begin the healing process. We can begin to elevate, move on, because now people will see this necklace and say, oh, it's so fascinating. And it opens a door for me to be able to talk about my grandfather, who I loved. And so for me, a lot of what I do when I work with clients or when I work with the folks that I'm interviewing is I ask them questions to get them to peel back layers to help us get to the core of who we are. and you can help discover your pillars in doing that. And for me, my 3 core pillars happen to revolve around beauty, culture, and storytelling. So finding beauty, as Audrina said before, I am a Taurus stellium, and so a little bit about beauty and myself. I grew up in a town that was primarily white and rural. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, and I didn't have much representation of myself. Not in the town that I grew up in, not in the school that I went to. I didn't really see representation for myself. And now as an adult, a lot of the publications that I write for, I have a beauty beat. I cover beauty trends, I interview beauty founders, I even do things like gift guide recommendations for beauty. And while on the surface that might seem kind of vain, right? Why is that important? Why is that something that you want to take on? Through uncovering my layers, you can find that it stems from the fact that I didn't have that representation myself growing up. And so it was very important for me to be that and to report on those types of stories. And now I also take pride, personal pride, in beauty. And a lot of my work centers around beauty and aesthetics and things of that sort. Another core pillar of myself is culture. As I said before, I grew up in a rural town in Ohio, and I wanted to use culture to help me connect to the Black diaspora. I didn't really have opportunity for that in my city. And unlike Chicago, we didn't have venues like Steppenwolf or the Joffrey, or even professionally, we didn't have conferences that came through the town in order for professional development. I didn't have access to that. And so as someone in Chicago, it's extremely important for me to take advantage of those opportunities. And I remember working at the local NPR station, sometimes I would get reader feedback because a lot of my beats focused on culture and also specifically people of color in culture. And I had this one man, every single time I would publish a story, he was in my inbox. Why are they Black? Why are they a Black artist? Why are they a Black this? Why are they a Black that? Why are they a brown this? Why are they a brown that? And I think the better question for him to have asked would have been, it's interesting that this fascinates you so much. I'm curious, is there a reason you want to have this emphasis on culture? But it's because shows like 106 in Park or TRL, they helped me tap into my culture. Or reading magazines like Essence and Ebony and Jet, they helped me tap into a community that I didn't know otherwise. And so again, as a creative, it's important for me to be that representation for that young person who might live in a city where they don't have access to culture. And through coming across my content, they're able to tap into the culture to be able to find themselves. And so that is my why. It's not because I don't enjoy pop culture. Like I said a few slides ago, I love Wicked. I've seen it so many times. I love pop culture as well. But it's important for me to be a pillar for Black culture, for the young men and women, and just folks in general who might not have access to it themselves. And a lot of my work today reflects that. Say all of that to say, media was an instrumental part of me finding myself as a young woman. And so storytelling is a way that I express myself, and also a way that I get to learn about others. Editorially, I've come to find that layered stories, the ones that have the most nuance, are the ones that readers actually resonate with the most. One of the things that I take personal pride in and strive to do every time I'm writing is creating a story that is evergreen. And so for folks who are unfamiliar, evergreen is a story that no matter when you pick it up, no matter when you read it, no matter when you hear it, you can pull a gem from it. So even if the event has passed, if the movie's been out for a while now, if the album is now old, when someone still reads that interview that you did or a piece, there's still something interesting there that you can take away. And I've come to find that people connect to journeys and stories through layers. And there's nothing more fun for me when I'm interviewing someone and I kind of ask them a deep question where they have to give me something that's beyond a yes or a no. I love either seeing their wheels turning, getting to think more deeply about an answer that wasn't rehearsed or that they didn't practice with their publicist. And that's fun for me, getting to see their wheels turn and kind of discover parts of themselves that they haven't really tapped into yet. Or there's also another side. You might ask someone a deep question, and I just see the joy on their face that they're like, yes, finally someone asked, and I get to share this. Because they might not have a space to do that either. And so that's one of the things that I love doing as a journalist. Pause really quickly. Is anybody afraid of getting deep? Yeah. Yeah. Those kind of deep questions make you uncomfortable? No, for sure. That's definitely fair. But peeling back those layers, like I said, can help us kind of find what is at our core, what are those deep-seated inspirations, and what drives us forward. And peeling back the layers also helps you find kind of the truth and the reason. And I often say reasons are not necessarily excuses, but they do help add some context, even some more kind of personal revelation for myself. Sometimes, either in my personal life or professionally, I've been referred to as bossy or controlling because I'm always paying attention to what's going on, to other people's emotional needs, kind of their flow of process. And some people really appreciate that, and some don't. And I remember I got into a fight with somebody that was a close friend of mine, and they're like, oh my God, you're so bossy, you're so controlling. I know you say you want to be helpful, but it's a little bit annoying. And I have to share with them a lot of that stems from the fact, when I was 5 years old, I lost my mother to a brain aneurysm. And I was there in the midst of that. She was a single mother, it was just my brother and I. And when the aneurysm itself was happening, I was there. And I really had to lock in to find help. I wasn't able to call 911, kind of giving my age here, but our wall was mounted, our phone was mounted to the wall. And I couldn't reach it. And so I panicked. I had to go get a neighbor for help, who ultimately was able to help us, but still my mother lost her life. But even then, I just remember everyone saying how brave I was and how they were so thankful that I was there to get help for my mother and my brother. And so ever since then, I've always kind of been locked into what people's needs are in case I need to be able to jump in. It doesn't stem from a place of wanting to be bossy or controlling the situation. It comes from a place of help. And offering that context to her kind of helped repair how she felt about the situation. And so sometimes you do have to get deep with people for them to have a better understanding of you. And for myself as well, I realized like, yes, this is the reason, but maybe also I need to think about how others might feel in a moment. So it can also help you regulate yourself when you uncover your own layers. And we all contain multitudes. I don't think any of us have linear paths for anything, even though we might be able to sum ourselves up in these nice fancy titles and these nice neat boxes that present linear paths and make sense. We all know that there are parts of ourselves that might be chaotic and might not make sense to others. But that's okay, as long as it makes sense to you. And that's why I ask if you have a therapist or a journal, really start getting honest with yourself about some of your layers. I know a lot of us know things about ourselves that we wish we could change. A lot of that starts with being honest about maybe why we are that way in the first place. Or maybe there are things that we're dying to explore, but we're maybe holding ourselves back. Maybe think about why this is kind of a burning fire for you in the first place, and give yourself permission to explore that. And so here are some ways to uncover your own layers. Look for the patterns in your life. Like I said, my 3 core pillars always kind of came down to beauty. Anything beauty related I was into, anything culture related I love and am into, or anything storytelling I love and was into. And through some layer work, I was able to discover the why. Do that with yourself. Again, explore the why behind your interest. Kind of start digging into your past. I know a lot of times we say, let the past be the past, but it's okay to go back and explore and kind of sit with either the dark sides or the bright sides of your past and discover the why behind your interest. And have those deeper conversations with yourself and others. Like I said, even if there's not someone that if you're not comfortable opening up and having those vulnerable conversations, at least have them with yourself. At least get a notebook and start answering some of those hard questions. And even purging, even if they're just thoughts. I think sometimes people think uncovering layers is something that has to be complicated or super time consuming, but it really just starts with opening up. Whether it's yourself, a notebook, a trusted friend, start being super honest and super vulnerable And you might be pleasantly surprised about what you find, and it'll help you elevate, nurture, or heal.
Thank you so much, Samantha. That was incredible. Give her a round of applause, everyone. And I'm going to open up the floor for questions. We can take about 5 minutes for questions, so about 2 or 3. So if anyone has any questions for Samantha, please. Yes. Okay. Okay.
Hi. Oh, no.
Torians Unite.
And I know you talked a lot about like your storytelling, but I was curious if you have a favorite storyteller.
A favorite storyteller? As of right now, I love Keke Palmer. I could listen to her tell stories forever. I just feel like her way of speaking, her energy, she's just a great storyteller because she gives you that depth. She also gives you that comedy. She's not afraid to take it there with whoever it is that she's talking to. She's always super vulnerable. I've interviewed her quite a few times myself. And yeah, I love talking to her. She's one of my favorite storytellers. I can listen to any story from her any day, all day. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if I can reach you with the mic, but if you want to.
My question was just like how do you like maintain being in journalism? Because I work in journalism as well, like on the photo side, and it's just like it can be very difficult, especially like as a Black woman or like if you present as a Black woman. And I was just wondering like just what keeps you motivated to stay in that industry?
The question is, so sorry, so I can repeat it for anyone in the back who can hear. The question was, how does she stay in journalism as a Black person? It might be a little difficult to continue that line of work, but just sharing with us what keeps you going.
Yeah, for me, it's always, again, I love connecting with people, helping them pull back their layers and tell their story. And as I said before, I also have a whole kind of retail side for me because sometimes those opportunities just weren't available. And I've had moments of unemployment in media and I've had to pivot, but I don't let the fire die because I find stories that are fascinating and I want to pursue them. So there might be moments where there's not work available or there's not a platform for you. Make your own. I recently got more consistent with my Substack because I am kind of going through a bit of a lull in media, but that doesn't mean there still aren't stories that I think are important that I want to tell. So find your own avenue to do the thing that you want. If you're passionate about it, if you know at your core that this is something that you're supposed to do or want to do, you can find a way, even if you don't monetize it. And again, that's why my life isn't linear. When I'm not writing, I'm kind of doing other things that I need to do for a check, and that's perfectly fine. That doesn't make me less of a journalist. Doesn't make me less of a writer. I just have to pivot, and that is simply a layer to my story that I can transfer elsewhere. So I think if you're passionate about something, you'll kind of find a way to do it, even if you can't monetize it. But if it's still burning inside you, clearly it's your calling, right? Or clearly it's your purpose in this moment. So continue to pursue it. It doesn't have to be in the traditional way that people think of journalism, right? If you're doing it and putting it out there, that's all that matters. I think another part of layering is thinking that it has to kind of follow this really specific process. Layers can be nice and lovely, like the one I have in the background, or it can be like the knot that my necklace was in until I took some time to unravel it. It's not always going to be like a pretty picture, but you can still get it done.
I saw a hand over
Yeah,
go ahead.
that's me. I kind of have two questions. One, where can we find your writing? It sounds like it was Substack. And then my second question is, what's your favorite layer in the
So you can find my writing, again, there's layers to where my stuff is, but if you connect with me on Instagram at @onyourcalendar, my last name, I have a link tree, and my Substack is there, links to my previous work is there. You can kind of go down a rabbit hole, which I definitely do, so feel free to do for me.
I'm gonna interrupt real quickly, but Samantha is one of my favorite people to follow on Instagram. She's constantly out there exploring Chicago. She puts you on the best cafes, the best like matchas, so definitely give her a follow.
Yeah, shout out to Bagel downstairs too. I've been there before, love their matcha. But my favorite layer in Wicked, which I feel like is kind of an obvious one that people have talked about, but I'm excited to see how it develops, is kind of like this relationship between Elphaba and Glenda that is like, you know, they kind of want to be together. You know?
There's some sapphic vibes for sure.
You know, and I'm kind of living for that. I kind of really like it because I think it like reflects in the real world as well. Some people you might be in a friendship that it kind of feels like, okay, are we like homegirls or are you trying to be like, are you trying to be together? You know? I mean, I've definitely been in those situations before, so I feel like I can relate to that. And yeah, that's kind of my favorite one so far.
It's Disney, girl.
That's what Reddit's for.
Okay, we'll take one more. Go ahead.
Great. I hope this jumble doesn't confuse you. You talked about the layers and how they can be messy, like the necklace, or not so messy. I totally agree with you when you said that you want to tell people your why, but I've learned that I tell my why too much, and I'm a big mess. So how do you find the happy medium between just shutting up and also telling the why?
Yeah. I think sometimes we might, what I call like word vomit, just out of nerves, anxiety, and we feel we just have to be talking, just to talk and to take up space. And I'm definitely guilty of that as well. I'm a writer, not a public speaker, so sometimes when I am talking, I find myself gargling. But really it's the intention. Being clear about why you're saying the thing that you're saying. And you can't control how others receive it, or if they receive it at all. But if it's important for you to put it out there and it will provide you some type of relief, or you feel like it's something that you have to do for you, put it out there, and then once you put it in the universe, it's kind of beyond your control. That was one of the greatest tips that I was given as a creative. You can't really control how the audience receives you, but you still have a responsibility to put it out there. So continue to put yourself out there, and then the people that kind of gravitate towards you, they will do so. And the people that don't, and it doesn't resonate with them, that's totally fine as well. But that shouldn't stop you from expressing yourself and your feelings, whether that's in the moment or just as a person, as a creative in general.
I'm also going to add on to that because Samantha actually posted about this 22 hours ago. And she said, the secret to being a private person is to overshare dumb stuff. So people think you're being an open book, but you're not telling them any of the important details in your life. I relate to that. Sometimes you have to like word vomit to get other people comfortable to word vomit back. So
Yeah.
I think like that's not a bad thing. You know, maybe it's about refining your superpower and figuring out where it's best, you know, used.
Yeah, as my young little cousins say, just shit posting. They just say it just because they can, just because they want to. Just put it out there. Yeah.
Love that. Well, thank you all so much. Give her one huge round of applause.